All right, we're up. Little late. My bad. Sorry. Was covering some stuff tonight. So about 35-minute delayed start. But Judge Dan is with us, Dan Jacobs from the Fan in Denver, and our legal expert. Not that Dan isn't. He is as well. But Justin Watkins from Battleborn Injury Lawyers. We got a lot of good stuff to get into tonight. Some good conversation right before we went on, which included, Justin, I'm not going to say you were whining, but that it was a little chilly today at Elevation. You are the third person I talked to today who was playing golf in Vegas, around Vegas. What was it like for you?
Oh, it was, other than the wind, it was fine. I was kind of hoping the foursome I was playing with, it was the first time playing with them. I was kind of hoping they were going to cancel on me, but I got dressed instead just in case. And one of the guys just flew in from Salt Lake to do a seminar or something. He was wearing shorts the entire round. And and I had on like 4 layers of stuff in this. I was freezing, but it was a good round of golf, except for the wind towards the end. You got pretty nasty at the end.
Who's better golfer, Cofield or Watkins?
Oh, I got to give me the edge now. Before it was Cofield. I've been taking lessons for about a year now.
Yeah. And then I try to pump up my game, and Justin's like, "I've seen you play. You're terrible." I'm like, yeah, you got me. I forgot we played in a couple of best ball where by the 9th hole I was just annihilated. I'm like, I just drink my my golf sorrows away because I can't take it anymore. Just snap hooking it everywhere, topping it, putting off the green. It's just terrible. Dan, do you play golf? You don't look like you're a golf physique guy. Not to rip on you, you know.
Oh, hey, no, I crushed it off the tee. I actually started playing golf again. I had a 12-year hiatus, and I got down. First round of the year was a 121. The last round was a 93.
Nice. So we'd all have a good time. We'd be competitive.
Yeah. I was before I started taking lessons in January of last year, I was routinely in the 120. I shouldn't say routinely. I only played once a year, and it was on, for a marketing thing. And I would, it would be a nice course, and I would shoot a 130, and I was like, please don't assign me a caddy. Please just let me be. But they because of the event, they always did. And finally I was like, well, I'm going to start taking lessons. And so like today in the wind and the rain, I shot a 98.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. What's the best?
Well, I got to the.
What's the best score you've ever shot? Both of you guys. What's the best score you've ever shot in a round?
88 for me.
Nice.
Yeah. I shot an 83 one time playing out of my mind. But my problem has always been because in Colorado you have to quit playing. And the reason I quit was, one, I went to law school. So not getting any this stuff for free anymore in radio, because I used to get it all for free in radio. And I'm like, I'm not paying for this anymore. Screw this. But the frustration of I can never translate every year, okay, so, 1 year I got down into the 80s. In Colorado, you have to take a break, and then every year, boom, right up to 120 something again. And it was maddening. And then, compound that with, okay, now I have to pay for it now because I'm not in radio anymore. Screw that. I was done. Until this year with COVID and everything, I'm like, all right, I got to get outside. So I started playing again. And by the end of the year, I thought I was playing pretty well. So.
Brady,
so here's the joke. Here's the joke, though. So I started buying all these golf clubs again, and my wife comes in, and there was a golf club sitting against the wall. She's like, "Is that another golf club?" And I said, "Yeah, people keep sending me these golf clubs." And she's like, "People? What people?" I said, "People from eBay."
Nabbed.
I will say there's a lot of joy to be had in buying golf equipment and golf apparel. Like I'll say golf clothes are the most comfortable athletic apparel there is out there. I enjoy wearing it to just work, and nothing like buying a new golf club.
Yep.
I wouldn't know what it feels like. I think my entire life I just bought used clubs, so my cheapness will always prevail. So I've always had crappy old club. My persimmon wood when I was like 16 playing back in New Jersey with my old persimmon used club.
Well, here was the great thing this year. So I started playing again, and I always had cheap clubs. Working in radio, I couldn't afford stuff, and I got free clubs. But there was always a set of clubs that I wanted, but they were like $1,200. And this year I was like, man, I always wanted these ping clubs. And then I finally said to myself, well, I'm an adult now. I have money. Just go buy them. And then I started looking at them. I didn't want the brand new sets. I wanted those sets. They were called Ping Zings. And I found them. They were like $185. And I bought them and I hit them pretty well. So I'm striking them pretty well and I like them.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No,
I have pings as well. That's what I hit now.
It's cheap.
Nice. Well, you hit the nice, but Justin hits the $1,200 pings. I hit the $185 pings.
It's all the same.
Yeah.
With my swing, it's all the same. I should say. There's no difference.
So did it actually snow? Where were you playing, Justin?
I was playing up at Dragon Ridge. It did not snow at Dragon Ridge, but it did snow at the house.
I think it was snowing at Red Rock today because my boss over at Learfield, / UNLV, Dan was out playing in the afternoon and he said it was snowing. Gave him a call at like, I don't know, probably 1:30, something like that. And yeah, he said 1:30. It was freezing and it was snowing. So
yeah, it was hailing at Dragon Ridge at 1:30. But my tee off wasn't until 1:50, so I just got no warm up and then by about 2:00, it rained on and off a little bit, but it was just cold and windy.
And believe it or not, we actually had Jason Terry. This is believable because you heard him. We had Jason Terry, the former NBA player, on the show today because his brother Curtis is a UNLV guy and a UNLV announcer. And Jason Terry was actually on the golf course at some point today as well. So, and I guess he told his brother it was pretty freaking cold. So, not the greatest day. Dustin DeHart, also another one of our great sponsors from Nova Home Loans, actually just bought a house up at Mount Charleston. So we went up there last night and he said it was like a blizzard. So,
oh yeah,
we are getting a blizzard 2 to 5 feet here tomorrow.
Here's the great thing. We're telling these stupid stories. Dan lives in the Denver area. Wait, 2 to 5 inches tomorrow? What?
2 to 5 feet.
What?
2 to 5 feet over the weekend.
Okay. What do you do? Like, how do you shovel out? Do you have equipment? What do you do?
You just keep doing it like all day, every day for like 2 or 3 days and try and stay ahead of it.
And then it's great in Denver. It'll be 74 like 4 days later.
Yeah. But that doesn't, a storm like that, the snow doesn't go away just because it's 74 for a couple days. Like it stays around.
So Justin, where do you want to kick off here? You want to kick off with the Evander Kane story?
Yeah, the Evander Kane story is a really interesting one.
All right. Well, let's get into it. Explain it. I'll punch it up here in a second. But what's going on with Evander Kane? Because we found out a while ago, it was kind of embarrassing. A lot of his financial details came out because I guess he was filing for bankruptcy, and now we're at the next step, right?
Yeah, so he filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which is basically, I don't have enough assets. I've got too many liabilities. I can't make these two match, and I need help. And in the bankruptcy court in that situation, what they're generally going to do is look at all the assets, look at all the liabilities, determine if there's anybody who has a priority towards any one particular asset. So say a home, a bank that has a mortgage and a deed of trust would have the right to take that back over any other creditors. But then everything that doesn't have a lien right, they would lump together and say, okay, there's $10 in assets. There is $100 in liability. Every creditor gets 10 cents on the dollar, and we wash it, and the person comes out of bankruptcy anew. In this situation, Evander Kane has claimed that he's got about $10 million in assets. I think it's 12, and $27 million in liabilities, and he wants that all washed. Meanwhile, some of his creditors are saying, wait a minute, you have $29 million remaining on your contract with the Sharks. We don't believe you should be in a Chapter 7. We believe that you should be in a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which is a reorganization. It just means that all the terms of payments that you owe were going to be set on a schedule that you can afford. That's the very layman's version of what the differences is between those two types of bankruptcy filings. So San Jose Sharks, oddly enough, have filed a motion with Evander Kane to lengthen a period of time by which they can consider whether or not to terminate the contract. This is where it gets really interesting for me. A bankruptcy court in either type of filing can terminate contractual obligations of a debtor, of Evander Kane. They could say that this contract, because of what's being held in the bankruptcy, what's being dispersed, these contracts don't make sense anymore. They no longer serve their utility, or they are not an actual asset for the bankruptcy, and therefore we're going to terminate them. Oftentimes that would happen for a house that a person didn't want to keep because they wouldn't be able to afford after the bankruptcy, a second home, cars, leases on cars, stuff like that. They would just terminate it and say, come take back your car, the lease is over. I have never seen it in a pro sports contract, and as far as I can tell, there is no such precedent in a pro sports contract. And it's odd that the San Jose Sharks would file this motion with Evander Kane to take this time to do this. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think that if they try to terminate the contract, the court will not allow them to do that because it is not a burden. It is not a liability. It is an asset. And I don't see the justification for characterizing it in the bankruptcy code in a way that allows you to shed the contractual obligations. But that is my law school layman sort of version of bankruptcy law. It's not what I practice, but I'm going to follow this case for sure.
Dan, your opinion on what you heard there?
Well, I would agree with everything Justin said, but I would also think that it would also not go well for Kane, because I think a judge would likely also say that he also would not get relief because even if he sheds this contract, his ability to earn and satisfy those debts in the future is still high, because he still has the ability to satisfy those debts with another contract, with whatever other team he goes to. So I don't think he's going to be able to escape. I mean, he could get some relief, but no, I don't think even if he got out of this contract, the judge is just going to say, oh yeah, we're just going to let you shed all this debt just because you say so. So I agree with Justin. I think he's just trying to weasel his way out of this. And when you have that type of earning power, the ability to earn that high level of income, I don't think a judge is, likely to just let you just walk away, scot-free.
Yeah. And to Brady's question, that's the difference between Chapter 7 and Chapter 11, right? And so in a Chapter 7, future earnings are not considered as a part of wiping away your liabilities, but the debtors can say, the debtor who files the Chapter 7, the creditors can say and make a motion to the court, and they have in this case, say, this shouldn't be a Chapter 7. When you look at all the future earnings, this really needs to be a Chapter 11 and a reorganization of the debt, because there are so many earnings out there that we all knew about, and it's why we agreed to lend this money in the first place. So I just don't think that Kane is in a winning position on either of these fronts. But like I said, it's really interesting to me, and it's really weird that San Jose chose to get involved, because I would think from their perspective, they don't think that this is a bad contract. I could see why they would be motivated to try to terminate it if they did. And the cool thing about it, the interesting part from a legal perspective, is how would the NHL treat that in regards to cap? Because they can't weigh in. They don't have jurisdiction above the bankruptcy court to say, you can't break that contract. Bankruptcy court rules. So it'd be really interesting to see how the NHL would deal with caps for the team, and then future contracts for Kane. But I don't think we're going to find out, because I don't think it's going to get terminated.
All right. Good deal. Any other questions on this? I don't know if that goes into court this way. Kane falls under the asshole clause of the bankruptcy code. I mean, what does this make any sense? Why would the Sharks be in collusion with Kane?
Well, it's not collusion because they're doing it in open court right now. If let's say that they did have a basis to terminate the contract, he was going to be a restricted free agent and they didn't make an offer, or there was something along those lines where they had the ability to terminate the contract or waive or do something like that, but they really intended on signing him after the bankruptcy cleared up, and they just did it for the purposes of clearing bankruptcy, well, then that could be called that would be seen as potential fraud, and the bankruptcy court could rule on that issue. The creditors would say it's inappropriate, but here they are actually being upfront with the court, saying, "Hey, we want to pursue this," and it's up to the court whether to allow them to do it or not.
All right, good stuff. Let's stick in the sports world with contracts. I know we've done this before, and I know you've given me the answer, but I'm just flabbergasted when I see coaches around the country continue to get fired with cause, and somehow they walk away as bad guys with these massive lump sums. What is going on, guys? I guess, Justin, you can start, but Les Miles and Jeff Long, and I think in the case of Long, there wasn't any cause, so they just wanted to come up with terms. He's the AD, but he got paid off $1.3 million to go bye-bye. And Les Miles, who's got these serious allegations against him going back to the days at LSU, he walked away with like $2 million after being fired by Kansas, or, a mutual agreement that he was going to walk. Justin, why does this keep happening?
I don't know that. Let's start on the premise that Les Miles was fired for cause. I don't know that he is fired for cause, right? None of the conduct happened while at Kansas, right? And so I don't know what's in their contract as to him representing to Kansas that he had no prior situations, nothing in his past that's going to embarrass Kansas. If there was no such representations, then it's sort of caveat emptor, right? Buyer beware. You bought into this coach. You didn't look into his past. You didn't find out about this stuff. And you didn't ask the questions for him to tell you. If you asked the questions and he lied to you, okay, now you've got cause. But I don't know that we have cause here, which is, I think, number one, the reason why they tried to negotiate a buyout. Number two, why else would you negotiate a buyout? Because protracted legal action in regards for Les Miles is easily going to go into the millions. In fact, the coach that they fired to hire Les Miles got more than Miles in the lawsuit. So, do I think it's a bad deal? Not really on the surface, but I'll just put the caveat there. I don't know what's in the contract, and I don't know if he had to make any representations about a clean pass. So there's that. And to further muddy the water, there's only allegations right now, and there's no proof that's been presented to a court or anything like that to say definitively what happened. So there would have to be an even further investigation on the part of Kansas to figure out if this stuff's true.
Dan, what do you think about this? These coaches who continue to get in trouble and they get to walk away with millions.
Well, I think my line of thinking was the same as Justin's. When I saw the contract was 8 and they settled for 2, gave him 2, I thought that was a good deal. I hate to say it that way, but I thought that wasn't that much. That's 25%. And 6 months from now or a year from now or 2 years from now, nobody's going to remember it. And you didn't have to go through litigation. It's not prolonged. And that's how you have to think about it. What is the cost, right? The cost of litigation. It's not like he's just going to say, you can say, oh, well, we're firing him for cause and Les Miles is just going to forget about it. He's going to hire a lawyer and you will end up paying. You'll end up paying your lawyers and then you'll end up paying him something. You will settle because you're not going to go all the way through trial with this guy. These things settle. They always settle and you will pay more in the end. So to get this thing off your plate, $2 million, it sounds terrible. $2 million is probably reasonable. And so it's over. It's done. And by the time the next football season is over, everybody's forgotten about it. So, yeah, from a legal and litigation perspective, that's reasonable. And at first glance, I'm like, oh, $2 million out of 8, move on.
Yeah, we also don't know what Les Miles knows about the inner workings of Kansas and whether or not there's anything embarrassing or I don't know how else to say it, but maybe something that's not up on the up and up about the inner workings of Kansas athletics that they wouldn't want in the public realm. Because remember, if they're going to fire him and go into court and say they had cause to fire him because of something he did before he was at the University of Kansas, because they're so pious, well, then he's going to be able to come back to him and say, what about this? What about paying players? What about what's going on with the basketball program? What about all these things that I've learned along the way? And by the way, I'm going to learn about more during discovery in this lawsuit about exactly how KU sports works. And I would imagine prime target would be KU basketball. Do you really want that in the public realm?
Yeah. Yep. And no, you bring up a good point too, though, that any football coach who is dumped, if they wanted to spill the beans about especially recruiting and having some funding from boosters to go out and get players, we heard about the allegations in Tennessee that, recruits were walking on campus with Jeremy Pruitt and assistants were, giving out McDonald's bags full of cash. Again, allegations, maybe who knows? Who knows what's going on there? So in this ESPN report, Jeff Long said when Miles identified as lead candidate to be head coach in 2018, we ran multiple background checks on Miles. I also asked Coach Miles directly during the interview process whether there was anything in his past that could potentially embarrass university or himself or our program, and he said no.
What do you want him to say? What do you want him to say? What do you want him to say? What do you want him to say?
Get him.
What do you want him to say? Yes, I groped. What do you want him to say? I groped co-eds in my car? You think he's going to say that? Come on, Cofield.
He lied. I want the $2 million back if I'm a Kansas, student, alum, athletics department member. Let's go. Get the $2 million back.
Let's start right here. Background checks are mostly a joke, right? They're going to show whether or not he's been arrested or not. And depending on whether or not he gives you the right to look at his credit report, it's going to show whether he's in good financial standing and whether or not he's been sued before. All the stuff that's basically in public record. But I asked him this. I don't even know that if he said no, that's a lie. He's still denying the allegations, right? You would then have to prove that he's lying now and denying the allegations. An allegation made against me that's false doesn't make that no statement a lie. It makes it true. So you not only do you have to prove that you're right in firing him for cause, and in defense that you already don't have enough embarrassing stuff about your university that he knows about that he could throw out there to the public, but you also have to prove that he knew it to be embarrassing, that the actual allegation was true. So you got to prove two different points all at the same time and hope that you don't get hung out to dry in the interim in discovery.
What about where's it going here? Mark and LV said, is there such a thing as a morality clause that would even hold up in court that you could put in these contracts with these coaches?
Sure, but you better be pretty moral yourself, I would think.
So that's so really one of the big takeaways from this is at the Power 5 level, if a coach turns out to be a scumbag, the school's like, oh shit. But we don't have any ground to stand on. So whatever we got to pay to clean this up quickly, we're going to pay because there's probably something going on that could get us in trouble around that coach or at another, or within athletics, at another program or another sport.
Yeah. But again, Cofield, you got to remember, these are schools operating with public money. And now sometimes they say, well, no public money is used. We're like CU was saying that, like, we're only using booster money and things like that when they had their scandals. But, there's always a cost. And, you're standing up here saying, $2 million, this and that. There's always a cost when we're talking about litigation. So when you're talking about morality and we want to take the high ground and we want to do what's right here, there's always a cost associated with that. So even if you have a morality clause or whatever, there's a reason why 90% of things always settle short of trial. So even with the morality clause, the odds of you going all the way through trial and saying, we're proving this morality clause right, are very, very low, and you still paid. So it's not very likely that you're going to enforce even a morality clause unless it's just, I was talking to somebody about it. One of the few cases you ever see is like, remember the Donald Sterling thing, right? With the Clippers. It was so egregious, so out of bounds that the league said, we don't even care. you know, we're going to just throw him out of the league. Like, that's one of the very few instances that you'll see where it was like, yes, they just took a stand and threw that guy out and took away his, $3 billion asset and said, we'll just deal with the consequences be damned. We're throwing that guy out. But that's rare. Like, name me some other instances where that happens. It just doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. I love what you said there, Dan, and I couldn't agree more. Being right comes at a cost. And if that's what, I have to tell my clients all the time that, at some point there's going to be an offer that's on the table, and, you're going to ask for my recommendation. I'm going to give you my recommendation, and you don't have to listen to it. I work for you. It's your claim. You get to make the decisions. But there's going to be a time where I'm telling you the cost benefit analysis is out of whack. And if you just want to prove that you were right and you're going to make a bad financial decision or a bad cost benefit analysis, you're going to have to find another attorney. I'm not here to make people sorry. I'm not here to prove you right. I'm here to win your case and get you the maximum you can get. So I say that line all the time. There's a cost for being right. And most often it's not a cost worth paying.
All right. I'm going to walk down a dangerous path here. How about cases where we see coaches fired before the end of their contract, and when they first sign the contract, they get these crazy buyouts in there if they get fired after year 3 or year 4 or year 5, say it's a 6-year deal. This, to me, is obscene. Gus Malzahn from Auburn walked away with upwards of $21 million. I don't want government getting involved in sports too much, but you can't tell me on the state level that doesn't concern some people where you're like, wait, what? Why did you put these terms in the contract? Like, how desperate are we? That's for the public good. $21 million to fire someone? That's insanity.
Well, I will go back to, again, like some of that, like with CU, and I don't know if this is the case with Auburn or not, but I suspect some of it is. With CU, they found a way, and CU is not a rich school, but they found a way, when I think with McIntosh, they do find a way to do that with booster money. So it's not at a tremendous cost to the taxpayer, even though generally the football coach is the highest paid employee in the state, and it is, the salary is paid by the state, but generally they find a way to do those buyouts with booster money or whatever, fundraised money somehow. I might be wrong with Auburn. Maybe it was all just stayed out of the state coffers, but a lot of times they find a way to do it with fundraised money. But you're right. I mean, if it's coming out of the till of the taxpayer and it's not coming out of, athletic department money, which was from bowl game revenue or conference revenue or things like that, yeah, that's a serious problem because you're supposed to be stewards of public money. And no, it shouldn't be coming from public money. I would agree with you there. But, it's the price of college football. It's SEC football. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's all crazy. Those SEC coaches make ridiculous money. I would agree with you there. It's nuts.
I actually don't think it is nuts. I'm a free market sort of person, and if the market dictates it and they can show that it's a good financial investment, then that's fine. Auburn's a private school, right? So I would imagine that it would be. I'm sure they do get some taxpayer dollars from the state. I'm sure they do for some,
they have to,
research or
Pell Grants and whatever.
Yeah. So as long as even if public dollars are used for it, I don't have a problem with it. If the free market dictates that's what coaches are worth because that's what they produce for universities, fine. I mean, the part where I don't like it about this whole amateurism of college athletics is that they've set up the rules and states have backed them with legislation. The federal government's backed them with legislation that allows them to take advantage of the players and not have a free market for them. So it's a free market for the coaches. They can go wherever they want. They can quit whenever they want. And players are locked in under these contracts that they can't get out of, that transferring is a mess, and they don't get paid. And the coaches are benefiting. And the administration too, are benefiting from the fact that they have essentially free labor. And that's the part I disagree with. If it's a free market for the coaches, it should be a free market for the players too.
Well, how's it not a free market?
What's that?
What do you mean?
Can't go in the NFL draft?
Over their head? I mean, who made Mac Jones go play at Alabama?
Right. Well, we created a system where he couldn't go play professional sports, and there is no other alternative to college sports.
He has the constitutional right to play football for a living. He could be Steve's intern. What better higher purpose in life is it than to be Cofield's intern?
Because, like you said, if we're to be good stewards of the public dollar, and the public dollar is paying for these coaches, we get to dictate what the best use of that public dollar is. And I think the best use of that public dollar is to ensure that young men and women who are providing for a financial benefit for the university are compensated for it, not just the coaches and the administration. That's the stewardship of the public dollar. That's what the legislators of each of those states should be thinking about, in my opinion.
Well, they do get money. So it's a little bit of a misnomer. They do get money. Now, do they get a big exorbitant salary? They don't. They get it. They do get education if they want it. If they find value in that, they get it. And I'm not 100% the other way, Justin. I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm somewhere in the middle. But they do get a very valuable education. They don't have to play college football. They get an opportunity that most of us would kill for. They work hard for it. And, so I'm not one of those like, hey, it's, a gravy train with biscuit wheels. They work very, very hard. But they do get opportunities. They do get money. Now they should get more, but they're not professional athletes. And then if they want to be professional athletes, they can wait and they can go train, they can do whatever, or they can do something else. But the free market idea is a little bit, they're not forced to be doing that. They can do something else in the free market. That if it's a true free market thing, go do something else in the free market. If in the free market you choose to be a college football player, well, that's the free market right now is saying these are the rules. And the professional football, you can go do something else. The free market for professional football is they're saying our product is not as good if we let somebody 18 years old play in the NFL. And they're right. It would suck if 18-year-old players play in the NFL. So we don't want them. I like college football and I like NFL, and I don't want them mixed up together. So is the system great? You're right, Justin. No, it's not good. But this free market thing is nobody's twisting their arm to play college football. If they don't like it, they can do something else. They do get paid. They do also get, education and other opportunities as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my whole point is on that is you say these are the rules by which that have been set up, but under what basis? Why are those rules okay? I'm advocating for the change. Yeah, I'm advocating for the change of those rules. It's not free market, right? The legislatures have set up those rules to allow our public dollars to be spent on behalf of administrators and coaches, but not on behalf of the players in any sort of equal fashion. And we've created rules federally that don't allow them to unionize when any other free market enterprise is allowed to unionize, right? They all have labor rights. They don't in college athletics. And so we have set up a system to ensure the status quo, which is all money floats to the top, all the risk and injury and detriment flows to the bottom. And so if we are going to use our taxpayer dollars to do that, then we should create rules, I believe, that are more fairly apportioned. We can't just say, well, those are the rules, those are the rules. We fund these organizations that have made the rules. We can make the rules. We have the right to. And in every state,
well, we are.
Regions.
We are we not? Like now, aren't they getting more stipends? Aren't the rules changing more? And so that's the way change happens. And we are seeing more. They are getting more money, and change doesn't happen overnight, but that's what's happening.
Yeah, but not because the legislators changed the rules, but because Ed O'Bannon decided to go through 9 years of hell to win a case on name, image, and likeness and won a case. my point is, let's be proactive on this and set up rules. And I think California has done an excellent job. Now they've muddied the water for everybody else, but at least they're pushing forward. And meanwhile, the NCAA is hiring, tons of lobbyists to go spend time in DC to ensure the status quo stays. So, I mean,
did Ed O'Bannon take away? Did Ed O'Bannon take away college football night? What was the college NCAA football? And yes, I hate him. He stole my college football game. The NCAA. What was the video game?
NCAA football. Yeah. Yeah.
Damn you, Ed O'Bannon.
So it's so funny that we're on the opposite sides of this, because I'm okay with the coaches being paid these exorbitant amounts, because I think it's a good investment on behalf of the taxpayer dollar, because they generally in these sports are going to generate more funding for the school. At the same time, I want rules that allow the players to participate in the wealth that's being created.
I would be okay with that too. I would be okay with it too. If that were to happen, I would be okay with that. I would just, this idea that they get nothing and they do get money. They do get things of value. And if they were to get more, I would have no problem with that either.
Yeah. Hey, Steve.
Hello, Steven.
I was doing some production anyway, but that was good. And I was going to make the point, it was like 10 minutes earlier, but I am kind of a hypocrite because I'm very much pro-labor. And I say all the time that baseball players and NBA are labor. It makes people uncomfortable that, their labor making whatever, $700,000 to freaking $40 million, but I'm going to back labor. And all of a sudden I'm anti-coach. Technically they are labor, even if they're the highest paid labor in the state. Like, they're more powerful in many states than the governor. It just, I don't know. The whole thing seems weird. And in a state like Nevada, that is cash poor all the time, if I don't know what the buyout is on, say, the Reno coach, Jay Norvell, but if you try to get rid of Jay Norvell, you got to pay out some money, and they're not getting rid of him because he's been good. But all of a sudden, then you've got an issue with your athletic budget, and you're going to the state. Like, wait, you're the ones who wrote the contract. I just with the crazy buyout, I just wonder if football's so fucking big though in these states that there isn't a state politician who's willing to step up, because they're not interested. Many state level politicians are not interested in doing the right thing and protecting the public. They're interested in freaking making sure that they are reelected. So the last thing they want to do is fuck around with the local football program.
Well, what we had here was we had Coach McIntyre, who had CU was a bottom feeder forever. He had one good season, but then they had a coach. A big story, SI. They kind of covered it up. They had a duty to report. They had a Coach Joe Tumpkin, who was beating and strangling and almost murdered his girlfriend. They kind of covered that up, and nobody took a stand. And they gave him a contract anyway. And the Board of Regents, everybody was complicit in it, and that wasn't an issue. And then he couldn't sustain the success, and like a year later, they fired him, and then they had to buy him out. It was a complete embarrassment. I mean, it was disgusting, but that's the way college football is. It's a joke.
Yeah, and just Steve, I'd actually play devil's advocate on what you're saying as well. I don't know that it's always about just making it through the next election. Let's be real here. When you have a great college football or college basketball program that's actually profitable and gets boosters to invest in the university, that's saving taxpayer money in the investment that the state is likely has to make to the university. So I would say that in not being antagonistic to the process and the payouts to the coaches and making a successful program, they are being good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars in those situations where you are being successful. And they are, every study will show when your athletic programs take off and they become a national power, the donors across the university, not just in the athletic department, increase. And so I can see why that's a good stewardship of tax dollars, is to ensure athletic success. I don't like the system, but that is where we are. I mean, it's a fact of the matter.
All right. Ready to move on? So let's flip things completely. And this is kind of going in the the Wayback Machine, because Justin, this was a hot topic for you. Who I don't know how far back it was. I said way back, but it feels like it was like 3 or 4 months into the COVID crisis, and you were really concerned about legislation in Nevada with regards to liability for businesses, especially our casino industry. And I saw the story in the last couple of days. That's actually a little bit old, but anyway, that in Texas they've been really pushing hard to limit COVID liability for Texas businesses. Can you revisit this and why this is such a big issue, state by state and also federally?
First off, this is a bullshit issue that's the big boogeyman. Like, we need to protect our small businesses from lawsuits. There are no lawsuits about COVID transmission. They don't exist. I think there's been a total of like 200 filed across the United States, and 0 of which have been successful. So like, they turn this into this big issue that's like, we have to stand up for small businesses against these really bad, dirty lawyers who want to sue for COVID transmission cases. It's just not happening. That's number one. Number two, providing immunity for anything is encouraging bad behavior in my estimation. If people are doing what they're supposed to do, then there is no need for immunity. And people talk about, well, all these frivolous lawsuits. I got sued and it was frivolous, right? And I had to pay anyway. Well, first off, frivolous lawsuits, and I'll talk specifically about the state of Nevada, if they are deemed by the judge to be frivolous, they are thrown out, and you get awarded attorney's fees and costs, and you can access those costs and fees against the attorney representing the frivolous litigant. So there is a pocket you can go after. There is recourse. You can stand up to a frivolous lawsuit, and you can file motions with the court. So bullshit on the whole, hey, I pay on these frivolous lawsuits anyway. What the real battle is they got sued. They tried to convince a judge or a jury that the case was frivolous, and the judge or the jury disagreed. So they want to move the goalpost on what they think a frivolous lawsuit should be. And so what these laws would attempt to say is, any claim that's brought against a business for failure to institute proper safety protocol in regards to COVID and the transmission that happened as a result thereof is frivolous, even if it wouldn't be. It is now. And I think all you're doing is encouraging bad behavior. There are state guidelines. People should follow them. If they don't, and it results in harm to somebody, then you should be held accountable.
Maybe. The Potato Head family, actually, it would be Mr. Potato Head who would file the frivolous lawsuit. Dan, you got anything on this?
I could not have said it like James Carville in Old School. Actually, I have nothing to add. That was perfect.
All right, good reference. Pro Martini Maker asked a general question. Did insurance companies pay out on business interruptions?
Very few, and for the most part, that is not done.
Don't you have to have the coverage?
Well, the question is whether or not what constitutes business interruption, and whether or not a pandemic, whether or not this is as a result of a transmission of a disease, or whether this is civil authority, and how that's characterized under contract. Because most of them do have coverage for civil authority, meaning if the government shuts you down. But what they're arguing, and I think is somewhat of a fair argument, is that means like shutting down the road that gives access to your business, not shutting down the economy because of a pandemic. The reality is we've never had something like this in the time of mass insurance. And so there isn't great language that pertains to this very situation. There's not exclusions for pandemics, and there's not like a clear definition of whether a closure as a preventative measure to a pandemic constitutes civil authority or not. So long story short, on a national basis, these things are still going on, and I think that they'll go on for a little bit longer because they're going to have a court weigh in on what coverages apply.
All right, Dan, let's lean on you for a couple of local stories. One is very public, and that is Melvin Gordon. I'm going back. Actually, no, this story is on TMZ. Yeah, this is on TMZ today. NFL star Melvin Gordon told cops he was drinking and driving before arrest, police video shows. But then other stories out there, and you know this better than I do. Melvin Gordon DUI charge dismissed, won't serve suspension. So what happened here?
Well, they screwed up the this is these cops, man. And I don't want to come off too heavy-handed here, but now they're releasing. They say due to a FOIA request. Now they're releasing body cam footage. Where's the rest of it? Release the rest of it. And this happens all the time. Where's the rest of the body cam footage? They release footage that makes them look bad. Where's the rest of the footage? And this was a debate we had, and I was on the station last night. Because some of my fellow co-hosts on the station are like, why are we celebrating him getting off on a technicality and this or that? And you don't get DUI charges dismissed on a technicality. It was a bad stop. These are serious constitutional violations. They violated his constitutional rights. Okay, they pulled him over. I don't know exactly what went wrong, but they pulled him over for going 71 miles an hour in like a 35. So that part of the stop had to have been okay. They screwed it up. And there's 20 minutes of body cam footage missing. Okay, cops do this frequently. Oh, I forgot my body camera. Okay, I had a case one time. They roll up on a guy. They have a search warrant for his house. They rush up on him. He's working on his car in the parking lot. There's 5 police officers. They roll up on him, ambush him, and he is just shocked. He's like, what's going on? They say, what do you have on you? And then all 5 body cams, 1 minute they're rolling, all of a sudden there's no body camera footage, and magically all 5 police reports say he's in the back of the car and gives a confession. Well, where's the footage? There's 5 body cams. All of a sudden they're all magically off. Where's the footage? Same thing here. TMZ, all these, there's this footage of the body cam. There's 20 minutes missing. And there's some sort of serious violation here. They had to dismiss a DUI charge where he admitted he was drinking. And for whatever reason, the blood test didn't get done. The court said, yes, we would have had to have suppressed this evidence. That's serious. They don't just suppress evidence. They don't just throw out evidence. That's something serious that was done. And so, why are we celebrating this or that? Hopefully, maybe being optimistic, these police officers will learn. This is a teachable moment for them. Maybe they'll learn, we did something improper. We can learn from this. Maybe we'll go back to our department and say, hello, fellow police officers. We will learn in the future. This is the proper way to police, to conduct a traffic stop, a DUI stop, and not infringe upon the rights of our fellow citizens in the future. So he's not going to get charged with DUI. He pled to habitual traffic stop, reckless driving. So the thought yesterday was he was not going to face any league discipline. Now today, because there's they released body cam footage saying, well, I was drinking. Maybe he will get some discipline, but it's not illegal to drink and drive. People need to understand that. We talked about that with Springsteen, a month ago, right? It's not illegal to drink and drive. It's illegal to drink while you're impaired, right? Either, driving under the influence or driving while impaired. Those are illegal offenses, but you can have a beer and get your car and drive. Initially, that's what he said. He said, I had 1 drink and I drove. We don't have to my understanding, we don't have an alcohol test here, a blood level here. So we don't know if he was intoxicated or not. We know he broke the law as far as driving too fast and driving recklessly. He pled to that. So I don't know if they'll really, face discipline or not. As of yesterday, his representative said, we don't believe he will face discipline, but that's kind of where we're at.
Hey, Dan, do me a favor before Justin gives his take. Pop out of the room for a second and see if you can jump back in, and we'll try to clean every video because you got a little max headroom-ish for a while there. So jump out for a second.
The headsets? Okay. Yep.
No, I don't know. It's your video, actually. No, your video got all kind of blurry and whatever. So give that a try. All right, Justin, give me your take on this, because I thought that was a pretty good explanation. Everyone's all mad, but there's a procedure to follow here, and it got screwed up.
That's great. No, I couldn't have said it better. Dan's got it. But here's what I would say on potential fixes. I don't think they're going to learn their lesson. I think that they go, oh, crap, it was somebody famous. So we don't do that to somebody who's got means to actually get private representation and hold us accountable, but to the average Joe, they're still going to do these things. Here's how you fix it. And Nevada has a bill that's being heard up in the legislature right now. I think that has a part to this. The first part to that bill says that you can now sue somebody for civil damages if they make a false statement or a false statement in a police report or a false police report. So I believe that would include a police officer making a false statement in a police report about you. Now, do I have high hopes that will actually make it through to the end of the day and say that? I don't. But here's how you fix it. There needs to be a civil fine that goes to police officers if they turn off their body cam footage. That has to happen. There needs to be some criminal penalties if they lie in a police report about what happened. That should be a crime. They should be terminated if they do so. Because the fact that we look the other way when they do this shit all the time drives me crazy. And then third, there should be a civil remedy against a police officer if they make a false statement in a press conference about what happened in a police report, right? About what they have as evidence when we don't have available access to the police report, right? If they get out just like they did in the Toronto Raptors situation, and the police come out and say in the press conference, oh yeah, here's what happened, and they knew it was a lie when they said that. We need to have civil penalties associated with that, and they need to be held accountable. And us, the taxpayers, shouldn't be paying that. It should be them individually. So I think there's reforms that can be happened so that they for sure do learn their lesson. But here's the practicality of it. It's hard to recruit cops right now, all across the nation. And I think that is what will scare legislatures into not doing this kind of thing. Is it's hard to find quality police officers in almost every major metropolitan area. It doesn't have enough police officers. They're doing a recruiting event here in Clark County, and specifically to try to diversify the police force. And so I get that practicalities may impede those reforms, but those reforms need to be had, because this is a joke of, I can turn on my body cam footage when convenient. I can turn it off when I don't, or I'll just completely edit it out after the fact and we'll get all of our stories straight. That's bullshit.
The point thrown up there by Truth from Duluth. We've been through this many times. The pensions are pretty much protected, right?
I think Dan had something on this. Right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan. Do you have anything else?
Oh, yeah. Well, for the most part, yeah, it depends. In fact, there was one, although there was one Dateline case where the guy, he just got to the very end, and then he started helping these bank robbers rob banks. And so he just got to the end and he lost his pension. But yeah, for the most part, they are. Of course, it would depend on which state and which police department and things like that. But yeah, I mean, some of these guys, it doesn't matter. It's like a lockbox. Remember Al Gore with the lockbox? Those pension funds they're unbreakable. So it's crazy.
Yeah. And the part that I don't like about that is, even if you are able to dig your fingers into the pension, it doesn't go to the victim, right? It just makes the rest of the cops, it's just a forfeiture, right? So the rest of the cops' pensions are in a better condition and safer, but somebody's been victimized by this when they lie and make false arrests, and when they, perpetuate a fraud on the public. That's what it is. They're perpetuating a fraud on the public at the expense of somebody's credibility and character. And there has to be consequences for that, outside of teaching moments and you guys can do better. And I think it's incumbent upon the legislatures to do that.
Justin, did you get to see the story today, the update? Because I was running around today. I didn't see it.
I didn't see it either.
I have it here, so we can kind of we can parse through it live on the podcast. So, Dan, I don't know if you've heard the story about Zion Collins. Zion Collins is a big-time local Vegas basketball star, top 50 guy. He's basically been, in top 50 rankings for every class since he was a freshman. Point guard, guy you build around. UNLV actually got him. They got a commit from him. And a couple months back, he was driving somewhere in 75 and a 35, and he actually hit another car, and the guy in the other car died. So it was real interesting right out of the gates. And we found out that there was going to be a charge of DUI, but it was actually cannabis or marijuana. And it was interesting. He picked up a really high-profile defense attorney. Like David Chesnoff in town has represented everyone, superstars who live outside the market. And, Justin and I and Adam Hill were analyzing. We're like, wow, this is an interesting pickup. And then we find out that Chesnoff, right, Justin was doing it pro bono, wasn't he?
Yeah. That's what was reported in the news. I don't know that specifically, but that's what was reported.
So Zion Collins' indictment dismissed over absence of DUI charge. It says here, if you can see it, he was indicted on a reckless driving charge Thursday in connection with the crash that left another man dead. A prosecutor then dismissed a reckless driving indictment during a brief video conference court hearing. That does not mean Collins, who is out on electronic monitoring, is cleared of either charge. What does that mean? What does all that mean right there?
Sorry, I was reading farther ahead. So
he still faces one count of reckless driving and one count of driving under the influence causing death in connection with the December 30th crash. Eric Echeverria was the poor guy who passed away. And those charges carry a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison. So what exactly, I'll go back to the top. What exactly happened here is they state Zion Collins' indictment dismissed over absence of DUI charge.
I don't know. I have to read this. I hate to dive in on this, but one of the big things that's going to come into play here is the reliability and the newness of our test for driving under the influence for marijuana and how that works. Because as I talked about before, the test that they use, this is from a criminal guy in town, the way in which that test, it can show you as above legal levels, even though you didn't smoke that day, if you're a daily smoker over a period of time. It's a cumulative sort of test. And so therefore it's not that this defense attorney says it's not really a reliable way to do it. And so I think that's really where this one's going to focus on is, I would imagine Chesnoff is going to go that route and say, that there is insufficient proof of driving under the influence in the first instance. As to what this indictment being dismissed, but he's still facing charges that would still put him in jail for a long time. Dan can maybe help us.
Yeah, what it looks like, just real quick, is the prosecutor. So a prosecutor, doesn't have to, but oftentimes will go have a grand jury and say, I want you to look at this evidence and see if you want to issue an indictment. It looks like the grand jury says, well, we're not going to issue an indictment. And so the prosecutor says, well, I'm going to go forward anyway. It looks like that's what he's going to do. So he's still going to go ahead with the DUI charge anyway. So he's still going to face the charges, or some of the charges, maybe not all of them, from what it was looking like. So it looked like the grand jury said, no, we're not going to go forward with the DUI charge. And the prosecutor says, well, we're going to a preliminary hearing anyway. And then the judge will be the one to decide if we're going to move forward with these charges, which the judge is going to say yes, because he has to view the evidence in a light most favorable to the prosecution. So that's going to move forward. So he's still going to face those charges, the charges that were in the article, up to 20 years. So yes, these are going to go forward. It's just the grand jury. The grand jury isn't going to go forward with it. The prosecutor is just going to say, well, I can't bring the grand jury. I'm making the decision now.
Yeah, that's pretty rare though, right, Dan? I mean, if you're going to seek the grand jury, which you don't have to, And then the grand jury disagrees with the indictment and the famous words of, you can indict a ham sandwich. You don't get the indictment. It's rare that a prosecutor would then choose to move forward with the charges anyway, right?
It is, but they can do whatever they want. Like, for example, here in Colorado, the JonBenet Ramsey case, everybody's heard of that. The grand jury indicted the parents. It's a secret proceeding. The DA walked out of that grand jury proceeding, told the media nothing happened, and didn't move forward with that indictment. He tossed it out. So the prosecutors can do whatever they want. What was the major case, the Michael Brown case, for example? The reason that was such an uproar was in most grand juries, the prosecutors only present one side of the evidence, right? That's the way it normally works, and there's no judge in the room. Well, in that case, where the cop was facing a potential indictment, he said, well, in the case of this police officer, I want the jury to hear all the evidence, so I'm going to present both sides of the evidence. Well, how on earth is that fair? Every other person on the face of the earth, only evidence of guilt is presented. But for this one police officer, I'm going to present both sides of the evidence. So prosecutors can do whatever they want.
Yeah, I mean, for better or for worse, the grand jury proceedings is a little bit like a focus group, right? I mean, it's just going to give the prosecutor an idea of how a jury sees this evidence. I mean, they're not bound by any part of it whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Correct. I'm not a huge fan of grand juries.
Yeah, I get it.
Well, think about it. Steve, I don't know if you know this. They're secret proceedings. If you're a defendant, you're not allowed to have a lawyer. The prosecutor's only presenting evidence. Now, a grand jury can ask for more evidence, but there's no judge in the room, and the prosecutor's basically the only one deciding which only evidence of guilt. How is that fair? I mean, I don't like it.
All right. Well, I'm gonna lighten things up, and I want to present a possible case of defamation. How would it work, guys?
Media people love these defamation cases.
Well, Justin, how would it work? What would be the term for sending out a picture that's misleading that could hurt someone's reputation?
That'd be libel.
Okay. All right. So I think I might be in hot water.
No, well, I know about misleading. It has to be false.
Okay. All right. Well, if people are gullible, that ain't my fault. If you noticed when I sent out the pre-show tweet, Dan, did you see this?
The brisket?
Yeah. So I sent out a pre-show tweet, and I was like, here's the description of the show, and then I'm like, Dan's a pitmaster, and then I tagged the tweet with a photo. Well, the photo I sent out was this one of some brisket, and I'm sorry, the photo's a little bit blurry, but you can kind of see the issues with this brisket. It sucks. It's right. I mean, is that Dan? I mean, if you made a brisket like that, if it came out like that, would you take a photo and put it on the web?
Is that out of your air fryer or?
Well, how would you grade that? You're not hurting my feelings. You don't know where I got the picture from, so.
It looks a little, it's not, if that were Adam Hill's first attempt, I would say, hey, good job, sport.
Okay. All right. Medium well here. What are we looking at? Medium well.
Very well done. Well done.
We'll call it I don't want to use the word chewy. What's a complimentary way to talk about the bark on that?
Well, brisket's supposed to have a nice bark on it. That's fine. But it doesn't look. I mean, there's a little bit of the juice on the bottom there, but it doesn't look overly juicy. It's a little. The bark looks a little elastic.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The juice is so devoid of that. It looks like it's been dehydrated, and the bark's separating from the meat. It's Great.
So Twitter is tremendous for barbecue critics. I mean, people just go crazy. So immediately I get back, what stepped all over that once beautiful brisket? Someone else said burning it in. Another person said JFC, that's the driest, most overdone brisket I think I've ever seen. And I feel like they were accusing you of making the brisket. Did you take it that way? Because that was my intent, is that I wanted to make you look like a horse's ass with this terribly, dry
me?
brisket.
Oh.
That's what I was getting at.
Oh, I didn't see that. I saw the roadkill or who drove over it come. I didn't see all of it.
So Justin, I'm clear. If Dan came at me and he was like, "Dude, ruining my reputation as a pit master by putting up that crap,"
You were all good until you said my intent was to ruin your reputation as a pit master.
Right.
The confession on air was a little rough.
Well, little did we know, Steve. I don't know if we can get into the story. Little did we know, my reputation as a pit master is apparently huge amongst the Douglas County Sheriff's Department. As we found out during a murder trial this week, if we have time.
Do it. By the way, you can keep going. I'm going to keep punching up, because that, of all the things we put up tonight, in terms of content, great legal analysis, good debate between you guys. The freaking, horribly charred meat got the most reaction. So go ahead, tell your story.
I swear, sometimes I don't know how my life takes the turns that it is, but this was probably one of the most bizarre stories I've come across. So Wednesday, I'm shopping for a printer in Target, and I'm on this list of court-appointed counsel. It's civil counsel, but for minor things like contempt. So somebody gets in trouble, something like that, and there's a few of us on this list, and the clerk will just say, "Hey, somebody got in trouble. Is anybody available?" And so I get one of these emails, and I said, "Hey, well, I'm in the area, but I don't have a suit on." And, it's kind of COVID. And they said, "Well, that's okay. Somebody got held in contempt during a jury trial. So can you be here by like 3:30? And I said, "Well, okay, again, I don't have a suit." And they said, "That doesn't matter. Get down here." And so I drop off the printer. I go down there, and I'm just, again, no big deal. I go to the courtroom immediately as something is wrong. And the bailiff stops me, the sheriff. It's like, "Can I help you?" And I'm like, "Whoa." And I go, "Oh, I'm the court-appointed counsel." And I one step into the room, and you could feel the tension. Everybody's looking at me, and something's wrong. And the courtroom's packed, which it should not be because of COVID. And so now I'm doing the walk of shame. I feel like Will Smith in The Pursuit of Happiness, when he had to go for the interview and he had like the clothes on, so I'm going in, the clerk's waving me over, and she's like, "Hey, your guy's coming in, go sit in the jury box." And she tells the judge, she says, "This is Dan Jacobs. He's the court-appointed counsel." And the judge says, "Oh, thank you, Mr. Jacobs." And so now all these people are looking at me like, "Who's this lawyer with no freaking suit on?" And I'm just like, "Oh man, get me out of here. This is embarrassing." And so the deputy comes over, and he's like, "Would you like to talk to your client in a private room?" And I'm like, yes, I would. So I go to walk, and the judge says, "Well, Mr. Jacobs, do you need anything? You got everything you need?" And I said, "Well, I know how to advise my client, but can you give me some context here?" And she's like, "Well, your client was supposed to testify under a subpoena. He refused to testify because he said he has anxiety. So I slapped him for 6 months in jail and a $10,000 fine. So we called you in." And so I already know what's going on. It's snitches get stitches. He doesn't want to testify. He's got anxiety. Turns out this is a murder trial. So 2 hours ago, I'm shopping for a printer. Now I'm in this murder trial. I got no suit on. I'm doing the walk of shame. I'm walking out, and all of a sudden we're going to the concrete room with like the window, and the deputy stops me. He's like, "Hey, are you Dan Jacobs from The Fan?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." And he's like, "Hey, and you did the beef ribs for Christmas, didn't you? Because I did this video how to be the Tim Tebow of your Christmas dinner. And it was a beef ribs video, how to be the hero, the Tim Tebow of your Christmas dinner. And I'm like, oh my God, and we're in the middle of this murder trial. And he's asking me about the beef ribs, And then, so I got to go in, and I mean, this whole trial was crazy. It was self-defense. Dude bursts through the door, starts beating up on the homeowner. He has a gun. He shoots the guy. So it's a 2-day thing. I'm there. I get my guy off, out, I coach him through. And the whole while, the deputies are like, Dan, you make this brisket thing sound a lot easier than it really is. You're going to have to walk me through it. I'm like, the whole thing was surreal. I'm like, what is going on here? So, apparently I'm huge. My barbecue's huge with the Douglas County Sheriff's Department.
Nice.
That's awesome. That's such a good story.
The power of sports radio.
Yeah.
And the murder.
And the guy got convicted.
And your guy didn't have to testify.
Yeah, my guy testified. I walked him through it. I'm like, dude, I'll get you off. I did a bunch of work. I got him. I said, dude, if you do what I tell you, because he was afraid he was going to testify and she was still going to ring him up, and I said, dude, if you do, I said, if you do what I tell you, I will get you off. I'll get you out. I'll get the $10,000 fine he had. I'll get it all wiped out. Just do what I do. It was gut wrenching because he had been through the war and all this stuff, but I got my stuff completely taken care of. But the defendant, I just found out 2 days worth of deliberations. I thought it was pretty clear self-defense, but they rang him up. He's going away for a while.
All right. Can I actually bring back your rep a little bit on the back to the meat front and
yes.
little butchering?
Big day today, by the way.
Well, I saw you sent out a tweet the other day about I don't know, something about what is it, wet aging for like 10 days? What's going on with this giant hunk of meat?
What's a brisket, man? You don't know what that is?
Well, I do know what it is, but I want you to describe to the audience. I saw the tweet, but the audience didn't see the tweet. What are you doing with this thing?
So Nick Ferguson is he played for the Jets and the Broncos and the Texans. I always kind of troll him. He wants brisket. He's a beef guy.
You're trolling people in Denver too? Go figure.
Yeah, of course. So every time I do some really good beef, I always like kind of troll him on Twitter. And I'm like, why won't you eat my brisket, man? And he's like, you never give me any. Yeah. So sometimes I fill in for the show after him. And so we did about 25-minute segment on this new smoker I got today, but we did it a couple weeks ago. So I promised to make him some brisket. I'm doing the show next week. And so I bought this the other night. I think it was last night. So I got him. I said, next time I'm coming in, I'm going to make you and the guys a brisket. And I got a USDA prime. So Steve, just so you know the levels of beef that the USDA grades. There's select, which is kind of the bottom of the barrel. There's choice, which is pretty good. That's a good cut. And then there's prime, which is the steakhouses. That's what they serve. This is a USDA prime brisket. I went and got the good stuff. And then I left it at the store last night, and I had to go back after closing time and say, give me my beef. I forgot it. That's a $40 cut of beef. So I'm going to let it wet age, which is just basically the process of letting it, continue to age in the bag and its own juices. So it'll, what are you doing?
I don't know. You're lecturing me on meat, brother. My parents owned a butcher shop, and meet up where, how do I do the other way? Wait, that way. Meet up Vegas. I've been slinging meat here for like a year.
Okay.
They only sell the best stuff, man. You use the code word Cofield. I'm down with the meat. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
I got it. Now, when you said wet age, I was like, I don't know I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I did want that explained.
Yeah. Because like last night I said, Cofield and Adam, I'm going to need your recipes on this one. And Cofield says, oh, I wouldn't wet age it for sure. You're screwing it up.
Yeah. I was like, you fucked it up already with the wet age. What are you doing? You destroyed it from the beginning.
Yeah. you can dry age, which I don't have a dry aging room in my house, or you can wet age, which is it's already kind of cryo sealed there. So I'm just going to let it dry age or wet age, and it'll be nice next week.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, man.
Is this video of your smoker that you sent out? Is this the new smoker? This friggin' what is it? The Imperial March music?
Yes. Yeah. My daughter helped me with this.
Is this it? Okay.
This is it. Play it.
Right. Justin, what do you have? Do you have a smoker?
No, I don't know how to smoke.
Oh boy.
All that venison?
We gotta get. Yeah.
What's that?
He said all that venison.
Oh yeah, no, I've never smoked it. Mm-mm.
All right. So first of all, what is this thing?
So I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can get a scale. We had to construct special stairs, like ramps. We had to get a special truck to bring it to the house. It was drop shipped. I had to have like a what do you call it, a lift gate. 5 guys of us to move it. It's 600 pounds. It's a rotisserie smoker, 8 racks that move on a wheel. It's a beast. It's awesome. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. It's comparable to making love to a woman. I think. I don't know how else to explain this thing. It's gorgeous. But I'm crying just thinking about it. I'm starting to weep.
Don't get all emotional, man.
I'm getting emotional. I don't know what to say. It's
here we go. Oh, no way. Really? That thing rotates?
Yes, it does.
Wow. Impressive. Let me finish it out.
There's eight racks in there, so we can do 32 chickens at a time.
Oh my god.
That's awesome.
16 racks of ribs if you needed to, about 8 briskets. So,
his pants are off.
That thing's a beast.
Look at how happy he is. My God.
I haven't smiled this much in years, but so it was like I said, we literally had to
there. That's awesome.
Yeah. We had to construct special wooden little ramp things, and we had to keep moving them down the stairs to get them in my backyard. I mean, this thing was an all-day project. I mean, it was crazy. I couldn't sleep for a week getting this damn thing. I just couldn't think about. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So what I did was I named it the Citation because this baby rolls as smooth as my first car, and it costs about the same, I think, as my Chevy Citation that I drove in high school.
I wish the Chevy Citation had more windows. It was a little brighter. Jesus, that car was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Are you jealous, Justin? You're not jealous of much, but that's impressive.
Oh, it's awesome. If I knew how to smoke meat, then that's that looks like the top of the heap right there, top of the pyramid as far as the smoker. I have I got a dual grill with gas and charcoal, and it does have an attachment for a smoker. I know I just gotta sort of experiment with it, but I just don't feel like ruining anything right now.
So 32 chickens, Cornish hens, what are we talking about? 96?
Oh, probably. I mean, good God, I don't know. Cornish hens are tiny, so yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, man. We do have to have some kind of meetup tutorial with all the freaking chefs and backyard cooks and on Cofield and Company. It's getting pretty crazy.
Well, I'm hoping to, because I want to go to the new stadium out there. So I don't know, man. Maybe when the Broncos play out there next year, we can do something.
Yeah, dude. We'll host it. We'll host it at our building in the parking lot. We'll get McMillan over there cooking up his stuff. Cofield can try. We'll give an air fryer. We'll give an air fryer to Adam. I'll cook the big game stuff. I'll throw some of that stuff on, and
want some of that
Yeah,
sausage.
well, yeah. I still that shit lasts forever. I still have some in the fridge from that big log that we got. And we can have the listeners over and they can eat. We can all hang out.
My easy bake smoker.
Yeah.
I do have a smoker. It's it's not quite what Dan has there. So well.
I'm a sucker for good chili too. So if somebody wanted to cook up some chili, I'm always down for that. I love chili.
Nice.
Yeah.
Go away, COVID. Then we can start eating right. So, all right, guys, that was awesome. Dan, when are you on this week on the Fan on radio?
Well, they canceled I'm telling you guys, we're gonna get nailed. They canceled my shows this weekend because we're having a blizzard, man. Yeah,
why aren't you set up at home to do shows at home?
Because all the equipment for is for the real talent. Because for COVID, I mean, all remote broadcast equipment is for the Monday through Friday hosts that have to do their shows from home. I mean, we only have so much remote equipment.
Buy your own equipment. You'd be a hero if you could be filling it all the time.
Except for the fishing guy. Fishing they let do over the telephone like for the last year.
Yeah.
Like
well, that's dog. Well, I'm sure the guy pays a lot of money though, because we have the same thing at Lotus. We've got guys on phones from 1995, but the audience here in Vegas so what we did when we got kicked out of the building. I was doing the show for like 6 weeks in my backyard. I was like, yeah, I have the equipment. Let's go. I got boards. I got microphones. I'm like, I'm ready. I was pandemic ready like 20 years ago. Let's go.
What did you get the studio set up?
What, Justin's?
Yeah, because the last time I was on, it was like Cofield was absolutely no help getting the thing rocking. But I assume by now it's all.
We're doing the show from there tomorrow. It's done. It's done.
We did a show there 2 weeks ago, and we'll start doing some podcasts there. Just all of a sudden, with March Madness, everything got kind of crazy. So, and did you get the soundproofing all done or not?
Soundproofing's done. The LED lights are in. The blackout curtains are up. It's ready to go.
It was awesome. I tested out the air conditioning because I'm a sweaty fat ass, and I tested. Well, it's beautiful. It was getting hot in there. I turned it down to 67. Justin's like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
It's so funny. I've been showing the podcast room to people this week, and I go, hey, let me go show the room. We go up there, and they're like, damn, it's fucking cold in here. Every one of them, I'm like, hey, go on equipment in here.
Guarantee. Well, that's the thing. It gets hot, but I guarantee you when I walk in tomorrow, I'll be like, well, it's kind of hot in here. But Ari already knows that. Our producer, he's usually got a jacket on in the summer. So think about it. I mostly surround myself with guys who are bigger than me as a kind of a slimming agent. So I used to have the sports pig. Adam's a little bigger than me. McKinnell's bigger. Candy's a little too skinny, but all that hot air and then heat in the Lotus studios, it gets fucking hot here when it's like 110 outside. Our studio is boiling.
I've never thought that. Every time I walk in, and you've got the fucking 3 fans going and the door open. You're like, what am I supposed to do? I fucking leave the door open, and like these fucking fans are going all over the place. And I'm like, I don't know. It feels pretty good in here. It's nice.
I thought when you got older, your blood got thinner. Oh, okay.
My blood's like curdled. It's thick gravy. Stuck in a room tomorrow with Ari. No, Ari will be back at our studios, and then our producer on site will be Angel or Jeff. So fingers crossed, it'll work. We've got backup. So knock on plastic. All right, guys. That was Justin has seen me melt down a few times, so that was pretty good. That was a pretty good impression. I'm easy to work with. I'm not high maintenance at all. I'm not testy. Never explode. Never bust balls. Nothing. I know. The shock look from Dan. Yeah.